Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a beautiful beginning of Imbolc. The Celtic wheel is turning. Good evening on this beautiful Wednesday night, and welcome to Looking Deeper with the Reverend Sandra Herrick and Denise King Francisco. The chat room is open. Come on in, and let's talk about when spirit enters your life, our life. Hey, Sandy, how are you over there in New Hampshire?
I am very cozy. It's been so gray, so gray. We have no sun, not an ounce of sunlight for days, it seems. But it's a calm winter, and I'm grateful. I'm really just grateful. Things are okay. I mean, compared to the rest of the world, we're fine. How are you over there in Michigan?
Outstanding. We had almost 40 degrees here in Michigan, and so a lot of the snow is melting after the blizzard mania that we had a couple of weeks ago. So it's beginning of February tomorrow, which is the time when some of the plants begin to kind of sort of emerge,
Right.
and it's a time of hope.
Absolutely. And Groundhog Day.
And Groundhog Day is coming up. So
Yeah.
all signs that spring is just ahead of us. But I'm really enjoying the quiet of winter, as quiet as it gets in my life.
Oh, yeah. I was walking through the house today having that absolute thought. I love the downtime.
Yes.
And the changing already enough for me to say, oh, God, here it comes.
Yeah.
Whatever comes, it's coming. I'm not going into something. I'm coming out of something.
Exactly. Hey, Tara. Hi, Cindy. It's good to see you in the chat room. You two ladies. I know the boat is calling me, and the camper is calling me. But at the same time, I like the feeling of, oh, well, there's just too much snow to go out and do anything, so I might as well stay inside.
Absolutely. Why bother?
Exactly.
I mean, walking the dog, it's like, okay, we'll go get the mail. No, we'll go for a walk. Nah, we'll go get the mail.
Right on.
So, and she just loves playing. She loves rolling in it. She loves playing in it. But it's been icy this year. More icy than that beautiful snow that you can just crunch around in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Lady Hawk.
Hey, ladies.
It's good to see everybody in the chat room.
Yeah.
Everyone is welcome to be in here as long as you keep it uplifting, right? Keep it copaesthetic. So Sandy, this afternoon, or actually this morning, we were talking about, hey, what should we talk about tonight on Looking Deeper? We kind of like to have a little bit of a sketch out of what we're going to talk about. And I really liked your idea of talking about when spirit enters your life. What was it that prompted that for you?
Well, because I think with the turning of the wheel, with turning of the cycles of the seasons, and also after our class last night that I was so moved by, and of the spirits that came and visited us, and the quality of the movement that everybody had in their own sense of finding their soul and spirit. It's how does one find spirit, or how does someone know that spirit is present? And it was comforting last night, exhausting but comforting, really comforting. And so it just started to move me with, God, when did this door open for me? And so, when we were kind of like, well, what do we do? I remember just going, and it's like that voice again just kind of came. It's like, talk about how we are felt. Talk about how you felt when we showed up. So that's what happened to me. There's the goosebumps right up and down my spine.
Well, and Sandy, it's one of those conversations that you and I have as a course of who we are.
Yes.
And it's conversation that you and I would have if I'm at your place or you're at my place.
Right.
We talk about spirit because it's a great part of our walk, our life, our journey, our existence. But for a lot of others, not so much.
Exactly.
Or maybe there's a feeling of maybe?
Exactly.
I don't know. Maybe not.
Exactly.
Could it be?
Exactly.
So let's talk about that. How did you know? What's your earliest recollection of spirit being present?
Well, I want to qualify it with the variations of my life of, okay, I knew there was something sacred and holy because I was brought up Catholic. I went to church and I could feel the energy of something in church that I wanted to really believe in, or I believed in because I was brought there and I could feel it. I didn't know it was spirit at that time. It was God. It was being a good girl. It was going to the environment. And I enjoyed that. So that's a different place. The boogeyman was a different place of, is that a spirit? Is it a ghost? Or, that even gives me the goosebumps. But the spirit that I'm talking about when I had that thought is, when did spirit become an aspect of my life as part of my identity?
Right.
Not something I went to, but something I'm with. And that happened when I was 22 years old. That happened when I actually was going into, I came out of a divorce. I was coming out of a marriage. I wasn't divorced yet. And I went to a program called Mind Dynamics. And that brought forth the quality of discovering that I had a very, very intense psychic ability. And out of the group of people that I started to meet and associate with, my mother and all, befriending these people, we went and saw a spiritualist, Marcy Seidel, in Westport, Connecticut, or Greenwich, Connecticut. And she is a spiritualist who did spiritual things. So that's when spirit came into my life as an identity, as a companion, not a religion. And I feel that when I felt it with you this morning, it was necessary for me to be able to bring the continuation of what we're doing and saying that spirituality is an ether, it's a vibration, it's a frequency of love and eternal. And that's not religion. It really is a sense of belonging and companionship, that there's camaraderie. What do you have to say about that? And I mean, it brings that warmth of, when I was 22, all of a sudden I realized I had companionship in my psyche, not my faith.
Right.
Which was different.
It is different. Yes. Not all faiths support spirit being in our lives.
No. Or the essence of what spirituality, the spirit does, the enthusiasm of companionship or talking to the spirit rather than praying to a deity or praying to God, but having companionship in manifestation, in elevating your psyche, in elevating your awareness, and communing more with the universe and nature. Going back to the earthiness of spirit, not just out there in the what you can't obtain unless you're good. Yeah. And you see that's a topic all of its own.
It truly is.
If you're not good, you're denied spirit, you're denied peace ever after, you're denied belonging, you're denied the right to talk to God and have God's graces, and then you're anointed as a sinner rather than a human being.
Yes.
So that's the spirit that I'm talking to, that doesn't have judgment, but has a sense of integrity. Because it brings to you the desire to do something within the rightness of who you are as a human, not judged by, I'm fearful of God, so I'll only be a good person. and I only want to be good because I want to get to heaven, and I'll sin during the week and then go do confession so I can still get to heaven. It's like, no, what is the ether, the essence, the spiritus, the breath?
Mm-hmm.
That's the spirit. That even brings me emotion. Mm-hmm. That's the spirit that holds me eternal. That's the eternal flame for me. And that happened when I was 22. And only at that point did I realize, and I have to say this, when I went to the Universal, what is it? When I left the Catholic Church, because they told me exactly that, I was going to get married to someone who was not Catholic. And they said, well, your children are going to be absolutely not able to belong to the Catholic Church. They're already seen as, born with sin. And it's like, why? Because they were not born of two Catholics. And that's the first time my husband-to-be brought me to a Unitarian church. And that minister spoke common sense, not religious fear. So that's really where spirit started to come into me and let me know that I was bigger than some religious order. And it scared me. Mm-hmm. I questioned it. What is, am I going to be safe if I do that? Mm-hmm. I'm like,
well, for me, my visitations from spirit started as a very young child. And I can't tell you a whole lot about the mundane things in my life as a child, but I can remember very vividly visitations by spirits in my bedroom at night when I was 5, 6, 7 years old and beyond that. And some people have asked me, well, was it, what you were watching on TV? Well, back in the 1960s, the late 1960s, there wasn't much to choose from on TV, right? Maybe you were really living large if you were watching Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom and Lawrence Welk, right?
Right. There was nothing spiritual on TV.
No, there was Gunsmoke.
Exactly.
So the answer to that was no, and there is a difference. But I remember very clearly as a young child and my adoptive parents not having an answer for me, but they didn't dissuade me from it. They just didn't know. And as I got older, the visits became more frequent, and I, back in the day, did a lot of art. Tara's saying, how about Bewitched? Yeah, calling Dr. Bombay. I wish they would have been like Dr. Bombay, right? Or Aunt Clara.
That was not seen as spirits. Those were like the witches manifesting and coming and going. It wasn't really called spirit.
Yeah. So the visitations that I encountered were rather menacing as a child. And as I got older and I did a lot of artwork, beautiful artwork, a lot of sketching, a lot of pen and ink work, I drew them and created them from pen and ink. And throughout the many moves that I had as a military kid, most all of them have been lost. They're somewhere in all of the travels.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Right. And then when I turned 15 and at my confirmation, I asked Father, the Padre, who was in charge of our confirmation sacrament, about all of these things. And he was the first one, within religion who assured me that what was happening to me was very real. He himself being an ordained exorcist there in Minneapolis in the Twin Cities. And he assured me that, yes, these things were real. They were called the charismata, the gifts of the Spirit. And eventually I would learn about them. And that took place another 15 years later when I was 30. So the process of it, really for me, the remembrance of it was as a young child. And for me, religion was very much involved in it, because no one in my circle of religious people, the nuns and the priests, ever said, "This isn't real, you're making things up." So there must have been something about what I was talking about when I was 15 that Father Cussler knew. Uh-oh.
Right.
We've got one here.
Right.
Right. And so spirit is very present with me, always has been. And I, unlike many others, the Catholic Church has, well, I have clients that are of the cloth.
Right.
And I was taught by or mentored by. So it does exist. The mystical part of it, the mysticism, isn't much talked about. Spirit isn't talked about. And you and I go on and on sometimes when we're together about the New Age.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And the charlatanism, not all of it. I'm not calling everybody a charlatan, but there is the propensity for it.
Right.
Because spirit and soul, it's a deep subject. It's not to be toyed with.
Exactly. And that to me, again, as a child, I saw things, but it was not called spirit. It was angels or ghosts or boogeyman, or you're making it up, or it's a nightmare. It was not spirit. We had ghosts in the house, but it wasn't called spirit. It wasn't, it was something to fear. It wasn't something that felt friendly. I saw things as a little kid that was like, oh, for God's sake, Sandy, I would talk to them, or I screamed bloody murder until somebody came to my bedroom and said, so I was visibly seeing entities. I was visibly seeing beings that didn't make sense or we weren't able to explain. And again, in the Catholicism of it all, if you saw something like that and it wasn't angelic, it was evil.
Mm-hmm.
It was not told to me, it's a spirit. So that's why I'm saying, for me, when I was 22, to hear what does spirit mean, what is a spirit, it broadened the ability for me to be in those realms. Nobody was talking about it. I didn't have the we talked about, again, spiritual, no, we didn't. We talked about entities, but not in the way it's spiritual. We talked about ghosts, and it was a phenomena. There was a lot of phenomena in our house. But when I'm talking about spirit right now, it's like the first time that my grandfather came to me and let me know that he was a spirit guide. Somebody labeled it or titled it, this, go find your spirit guide. And my grandfather, who died a year and a half before I was born in 1945, came to me as if he were alive and became a full-time companion and an informant. He gave me information. Mm. So this spirituality that I'm really wanting to, say, for me, when did spirit come into any of our lives? Right now, again, in the work that we're doing, is when did spirit start talking to you as an ally? Uh-huh. It bring to you the information of comfort rather than fear. When did it, that makes me, my heart kind of, even though I was learning about spirits, I was challenged and frightened because it was like, who are you? What are you doing? And there were too many visitations. There was still that need for my life to become one who worked with spirit, because spirit was consuming my life out of my curiosity and my abilities to be with it. And so I was being trained by them, or may I even say unleashed, by this realm of spirit, by meeting Sir Charles, knowing that I could develop myself as a channel a seer and not someone who saw things and was scared, but saw things and interacted. And again, brought information, brought the beloved to a beloved, brought the awareness of expanding consciousness. And that was even before the New Age.
Yeah.
You know, the New Age hadn't hit there yet in the early 70s. So it wasn't about, read the right book and you'll manifest all the money in the world. And, you know, it was literally about feeling your heart open, being given support for your future, and relieving yourself from questions that you were curious of or kept you burdened because you didn't understand. They didn't have answers in religion for what was happening to you or your heartache. So where did you start working with spirit?
Well, first, Cindy, thank you for sharing that in the chat room. She's saying, my adoptive parents, like you, Dana, did not get my stories. My family home was built on an Indian burial ground. Oh my. And I would sleepwalk to the basement a lot. Many early experiences that I was taught to shut off. Ugh. Oh my gosh.
And therefore, you're denied your innate spiritual soul.
Yes.
Because some authority says you don't get approved of if you do this. You don't get to stay here if you keep doing this.
Wow. That's powerful. Sonia Davis is saying 2 days in a row makes my heart happy, makes our heart happy too.
Yay, Sonia, welcome back.
Tara and Cindy and Sonia all back for back-to-back nights.
Good.
Well, for me, I mean, when did I begin working with spirit? Was in my late 20s when I encountered somebody who had lost, well, a beloved of theirs had passed on. And of course, I've always been able to see those that have passed on. This is not something that just sprung on me one day. But after my talk with Father at the age of 15, and he told me what it was, but really not to concern myself with it until I was older, that there would be somebody who would guide me, his exact words, which happened to be Father Phil Shangraw at the Archdiocese of Grand Rapids, who led me to my spiritual director, who I love. But anyway, and this person was suffering so greatly. And I asked this person, well, you know, do you believe that your loved one has gone on to somewhere? Well, I do, but I wish that they would let me know that they're okay. And I asked, have you ever dreamt about them? Do you feel them? No, but I wish I would, or I wish I could meet somebody who could. And I remember saying to her, well, there's something about me that you don't know. And did your beloved, and I filled in the blanks, and she just looked at me and said, how do you know that? And it brought such tremendous relief to this person. And shortly thereafter, I was in my early 20s, one of my relatives took his own life.
Hi.
And he and I were the best of friends. He was 19. And I could feel his presence in his bedroom, which is where he took his own life. And I mentioned to one of my cousins that I could feel it. And she said, what are you talking about? So that's where I was beginning to understand, well, there's more to it than just spirit visiting you or you seeing spirit. There is something that brings comfort, that helps people to understand this isn't it.
Right.
But I tucked it away because there was a part of me that was afraid of that responsibility, because it is a responsibility.
Absolutely.
It's a responsibility to our own body because it uses a lot of our wattage
Absolutely.
to do this work. So the responsibility to our own body, and as Sister Irene Mary has always said to me, you are not performing a vaudeville act, you are interacting with souls. Remember that.
Right.
I mean, how do you feel about that, Sandy?
Well, it parallels. And as I'm talking, I feel one thing. As I'm listening, I'm feeling another thing. And as I'm listening to you, the questions that come up is, how did you develop the skill of the conversation to talk at a level of intelligence about it with people that are so emotionally burdened with where are they? What are they doing? When did you develop the skill for that conversation? Because I know for myself, I was born with a certain quality of communication, always.
Mm-hmm.
That I was able to be a good listener, and I was able to be a good counselor. And it wasn't something that was, it was just like, oh, go talk to Sandy. That was it. Like, go talk to Herrick. She'll handle it. And so again, we're talking about the 60s and the 50s where none of this was talked about. Counseling, therapy, it was just like, I had a good heart, but my heart had abilities to bring comfort.
Yes.
And so we're born with that in a way that we need to have it validated rather than turned off, shut down, or said you're too young to know that.
Right.
And so I didn't have the guidance of the church like you did. I had, this Mind Dynamics, where they did put me on stage as the show. You too can do this if you take this class. Look at her, she's psychic, and you can develop your psychicness. So I got caught in that, I can develop my skill, and maybe I can develop a world and a job.
Mm-hmm.
But to really start talking to people, I talked to people because they wanted sessions, they wanted to hear the future, they wanted me to do readings. And you're talking about really talking to beloveds in a very different way because of the soul dying or passing or wanting to communicate, which is so rich. And I did these readings that eventually got me extremely annoyed because I didn't want to be a fortune teller.
Mm.
And spirit, here gives me the shivers right up and down my spine, right in my body, where I was good at being able to see many avenues of spirituality. But to be a fortune teller became, like you said, a burden. I didn't want the burden of doing somebody else's work or to tell them about their future. To this day, if somebody comes, oh, I don't know what I want to do, just tell me something. It's like, no.
Oh, my.
What can I do for you? Bring them to the table. Oh, here we go, Belch. And as I grew and actually got involved with my teachers, Eva and Jean, that's when I realized, oh, there's a spirit world, a natural world, a herbal world, a counseling world, and a psychic, like you say, the entertainment world.
Yes.
And I wanted something rich in that, to be with people and the enrichment of being people, not the satisfaction of, I'm going to grant you your am I going to get married? Is my boyfriend cheating on me? Where's my husband tonight? And all that stuff. And that was there. and I didn't feel that was spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
That was ego, that was vanity, it was manipulation.
Yes.
So again, these energies that I was visiting or asked to visit or brought to experience carved that part of me into, no, you're working with the soul of someone.
Mm-hmm.
But when did you know you were working with the soul of one? How did the soul rather than spirit show up for you?
That's a really great question. I recognized it the very first time that I described to somebody a beloved who was standing next to them. And I could feel the depth of the soul of the person who was receiving the information and the shift of their soul as I was sharing the information. And because you and I are both sensitive, I sensed, oh my goodness, Dee, this is nothing to be toyed with. This is monumental for this person.
Right.
And so I just knew. I knew that. And luckily for me, I've always been able to, well, I can't say that I've always been able to speak publicly. It was actually Tara Rietberg that pushed me out of that comfort zone many, many, many years ago. And I did my first public speaking engagement thanks to Tara and Sue Shamal. Yeah. So that was terrifying, but I did it. And that was the beginning. But I've always been able to talk to people one-on-one and understanding that. But when I did receive this is just so timely these days, the information from the Catholic Church that according to the Catholic canon, I am known as a seer of the church or a sensitive. Then I asked the question, well, what does one do with that in order that it be done correctly? And I was trained in the counseling sense of it and the accuracy of things and allowing spirit to come through by 2 Roman Catholic nuns, actually, and a third that would come to my house every so often. But they literally came to my home. And I'm not certain that the Archdiocese said, hey, you two, we've got somebody that, needs some instruction. But through a course of events, the good sisters would come to my home and they would quiz me. I mean, they would drill down with me. What do you see? How do you see it? What does it smell like to you? What does it feel like to you? What are you sensing? What color is it? Does it have a texture?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's such a beautiful safety in what you are saying, having the Catholic child be held and embraced by the Catholic Church, or the phenomena of what you're going through be allowed without having it being discredited. Where, interestingly enough, the way I was doing it, I was outside the religious orders. And so there was a lot of rhetoric on, are you evil? Are you a witch? Are you bad? Cast out, what are you?
Mm-hmm.
And, by the Christians, that would be, what are you doing? Blah, blah. And again, the New Age hadn't started yet.
Mm-hmm.
What year would you say the New Age started coming in? It would be somewhere in the late 70s, where the New Age really maybe in the early 80s even, where it became popular as how to manifest and how to make your life work through visualization.
Yeah.
I know. I was going to say, also spirituality was brought in the 60s by the Beatles. I mean, that's when India came over. Meditation, alternative thinking. But again, the New Age really got hot with oh, what's her name? The Hayride.
Louise Hay.
Louise Hay. And, when the people started writing books about the New Age of, how to manifest. And I think the New Age really did get a bad rap eventually because it was all about manifestation.
Yeah. Prosperity gospel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you see it and believe it, you can have it. And then, oh, gee. And for me, manifestation that's not what it is for me.
Right. We have some comments in our chat room. Sonia is saying, I, for one, am so glad you both are sharing your gifts. I had a what if this is all there is moment this past year, and it honestly was like an electric shock going through me just thinking that. After the initial shock, I reminded myself that there is more. And good for you for being able to recenter yourself and
Absolutely.
have that remembrance.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Lady Hawk is saying, when a soul you are working with reaches the point of realizing the two worlds and learns to work or communicate and feel the difference, does that release?
Say that again.
Type that again, Lady Hawk. She's saying typing and listening, it didn't work. Go ahead and type it in again. Cindy lost sound, so she is working on regaining sound.
All right.
So the presence of spirit is always with me 24/7, 7 days a week. And I, unlike Teresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, and I'm not criticizing here, I'm just saying, for me, I would not be comfortable just stopping people on the sidewalk to tell them that their beloved is, walking down the sidewalk with them. How do you feel about that? Are you okay doing that?
That's pretty invasive. I mean, there's actually one person that I watched do that without the way of the bouffant hair and the nails that will claw you as they come up upon you. I am criticizing. Is this gentleman that actually had a show on Netflix or whatnot, and he was a psychic, a medium, more so than psychic. He really declared himself as a medium, who was an Uber driver. And he would get people, I don't know if you saw this.
Oh, I've seen him, yes.
Oh, my God. And he would get people and say, this is what I do. Are you interested? And they would go, yes, rather than, have a camera chasing her as she was grandstanding. Even if it was out of love and everything else, it was a gimmick and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
She used her gimmick and it worked. And, God bless her. God bless her. But this other guy wasn't invasive. He was inviting.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Very, very different. And it was, for me, if somebody comes up to me, now you all know, there have been times when people have come up to me and told me things. If you remember at our conference at the university, when somebody came up and told me things and I looked at her and it was like, I was so angry. I was so put off.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't accept what you're seeing and you need to back away.
Yeah.
And it was out of their need to do something or have something or receive something. And then the anger that came out of my rejection of that was unbelievable.
Yes, it was a force.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore here is spirit, saying, protect yourself. If you don't want to listen to what somebody's telling you about your environment, you don't have to accept it. You push that away.
Yes.
If it's something that you do. So if somebody's invading you, you always have the right to push it away. Mm-hmm. If somebody's inviting you, you take responsibility for your participation.
Yes.
Very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
And I have that even within the work that I do. If people come here, that's why it's like when they say, well, say something, it's like, no, what do you want to manifest here or create here? Or what is your responsibility here for me to even engage? What do you want with this? So that I can even choose what I want to do with it. Is it mine to do or not?
Right.
And it gives them, it makes them a participant rather than an observer.
Yes.
So, spirit for me, it is a daily thing. And I, like you, I like to polish the spiritual energy in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I like to puff it. I like to offer the incense. I like to have the candle. I like to open up the windows and blow it out or bring it in. If there's a bump in the night, I still respond. And, are you good? Are you this? Where are you? Who are you? Whatever. My husband, Bobby, sees things walking around the house all the time. And it's like, don't tell me. His eyesight's different than mine. I mean, that may be your job, but it ain't my job.
Oh, I love it.
Who's going down the hallway? I don't know.
Just let them walk.
Yeah, right. That one's on you. They didn't knock on my door. So, but there is, and the older I get, and I mean this, and I want to, let everybody that we're, engaged with here, that hears us in the future, and I see it with inside yourself. The older I am with this, the richer the experience.
Yes.
The more confident I am that the experience is even present and happening.
Yes.
So I don't have to say, what do you think? Or in that way of, you want to validate me? Or you having the same experience? It's like, I know what I know when I know.
Mm-hmm.
When I know I see it, I ain't going to back away and say, did you just see that? I mean, if somebody saw, last night in class, it was beautiful. Everybody's seeing lights behind me. And it's like, well, I didn't see it. And yet I felt something, but I didn't feel like I had to turn around and look. And yet you had vision of spirit coming in. And it was like so beautiful because we work in, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There's your name is rolling across the screen here. I don't know what just happened. It's that beautiful space of the collaboration. When you bring in something that I don't see, but I can feel it when you bring it, or I bring in something that you don't see, and all of a sudden it joins us.
Yes.
I mean, we've had that happen all the time.
All the time. All the time.
What happened for you in that experience?
Last night?
Last night or any other night?
Well, for me, when I make myself available, really available, I'll set a space to really converse with and to be embraced by spirit. I love the word that you used. It's rich. It is rich and it's meaningful. Mm-hmm. And as we do get older, we look back, and I look back. And it's interesting, you were just talking a bit ago about that. It's interesting that the Catholic Church found its way into my life to help me develop, what it is that I am or who it is that I am.
Absolutely. There's so much protection in that.
Yes. And, looking back, I am convinced that my great-grandmother, Hendrika Spol Erfman from the Netherlands, helped to orchestrate that. She was a very, very devout Catholic from the Netherlands. And when she came to the United States with my grandfather, they lived in Brooklyn, as did many Dutch people, live in Brooklyn for a long time. And it was customary for her to make sure that her grandchildren, when they turned 16, went to see a seer.
Oh, really?
In Brooklyn. And so you've met my cousin Corey.
Yeah.
My cousin Corey is in her 70s, and it was one of the very first things that she told me about well, it's her grandmother, my great-grandmother, was that on the 16th birthday of all of the grandchildren, she took them to see a seer in Brooklyn.
Good. What year would this be?
That would be 60 years ago.
Good Lord.
Yeah, 60 years ago. So in the 1960s, late 50s, she was taking, people to see this particular person. And according to Corey, everything that she was told by this woman absolutely, positively came to pass.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mother's family, very, very Catholic people, all of these things that I'm talking about were part and parcel of the order of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do believe that it was my great-grandmother that watched over me, even when I was 15, to make sure that I got to the right person.
Right.
Even though she and I had not met physically in this lifetime. And then, when I met the King family members the very first time, my Aunt Dot took me to the side, and Mama Dot told me, she said, what the things that you talk about, the things that you do, these are commonplace for our family. And in particular, your father. And for some of the cousins, that was a great shock. That was quite a revelation that they were hearing out of the matriarch of the King family.
Wow.
But yeah, for others, it was not so much. They may word it not as the charismata, but maybe as prophesying. So sometimes it's the wording, isn't it, Sand? Right? Prophesying, charismata, all of those things.
The vocabulary that challenges it.
Yes. Yes. The other thing that I've learned as I've gotten older, and if you would talk about this, is the preciousness of the interactions that I have with spirit, that I really have, I no longer entertain clients who want to know which school their child should attend in order to get into an Ivy League school 15 years from now.
No.
The energy that consumes and the clichéness of it. I mean, I gave it up eons ago. That is a waste of my smarticle particles.
It's also a rite of passage.
Yeah.
Where you go through the elevations or the octaves of where do you do your work.
Mm-hmm.
Each one has its own value, and it also has a reaction to our nervous system. It has a vibration in our nervous system.
Yes.
And it made me ill.
Yes.
It pulled on me. It was literally like draining, too much electric wattage was being pulled from me.
Yes.
I was being used. I wasn't being respected. I was being expected of.
Yes. Exploited in some ways.
Absolutely.
Right. For those people that say, well, if psychism was real, then there would be a lot of wealthy mediums and psychics who would win the lottery. And those people I write off straight away anyway because they don't get it.
Right.
That's not what any of it is used for or why it's here. And the other part that I, offer to people is because I have had multiple strokes and brain bleeds. And the last episode of that, I took Todd to meet my neurologist, who is Muslim. He is Sufi Muslim, which it is the mystical side of Islam. And one of the first things that the doctor, he looked at me and he said, I thank you so much for your service to humanity with the gift that you have. But you need to slow down and you need to give your pineal a rest.
Yeah.
And the look on Todd's face was exquisite. So my neurologist has always understood that. He's read my books. And he understands it not only from the medical perspective, but also from the mystical perspective of what our organs in our body are there for other than the day-to-day. Same thing with my family practitioner. She is Hindu. And she is also a yoga master on top of she's an incredibly gifted physician. And she talks to me about the ajna, the third eye, as it is connected to the pineal. And we've had those conversations that when we have encounters, you and I, that third eye, which is connected to the pineal gland right there in the middle of our brain, it looks something like a little bean getting ready to sprout.
Right.
It works it.
Exactly.
And it can become exhausted.
Yes.
So what do you say to people when they say to you, how can you charge for a gift that God gave you?
Oh, God, you read my mind.
Of course I did. What do you say to that, Sandy? Because I've heard that before.
Well, I was sitting here as you were talking. It was like, well, that's one of the topics I want to bring up is when I was sitting in God, yes. You read my mind. So I'm sitting in a diner with Bobby, my future husband, and a woman that he's with. And this is just one of the most bold times, but there have been so many other where she was there. Well, tell me my future. And it's like, it doesn't work like that. Well, if God gave you a gift, don't you think you're supposed to give it to everybody? And I said, God gives the gift to an artist and they do their work and then they sell it. God gives it and it's supposed to be free for some reason because we have a plug to the universe.
Right.
I am more generous in when I know it's right to give it away.
Yes.
Because something in the frequency of it, it's like you can't charge for this.
Right. You and I both do that. Yes.
Absolutely. There's this is not my work. This was something way broader.
Yeah.
This was a gift to me. Thank you for coming to me.
Mm-hmm.
But there is that place of, I'm in the business now for how long? I know I do what I do. I know I'm good at what I do. And therefore I have the respect of charging for what you're about to receive and participate with.
Yes.
Because I know you receive something and I know you would participate with something. And I know that the quality of what you're getting has the dignity of my life.
Yes.
Literally the dignity of my life. And I need to respect that.
Yes.
There's people, I can remember back when I started, it was like, well, how much do you charge? How much do you charge? And somebody said, $35 for regression. That was back in the 70s and like $35 for an hour. And so then it was like brought up to $50 because somebody said, no, you're good. You did it. And I remember the first time somebody said, you need to charge more. It was like, what? And she goes, you're good. And because I had other experiences with other people that didn't bring the quality of the work. And I think that's where my life started, like, what is the quality of my work? Because do I have the right to do this? Or is it right for me to do this?
Mm-hmm.
When did you start charging and knew that you had it was the rite of passage to charge?
When I felt comfortable that what I was giving to others was something that I felt sound in giving. And it was actually somebody who said, and I the very first time I actually said to this person, I'm not going to charge you. I'm just learning how to perfect my skill. And this person said to me, oh, no. No. That's not happening.
Right.
And they offered me payment. And then from there it went to, well, okay, then I will charge people what this person gave me. And then I would have clients calling from the West Coast and they would say, are you kidding me? That's all? No, I don't feel right just giving you that amount of money. I'll send a check and it would be for hundreds of dollars.
Exactly.
And then there are people that, for whatever reason, whatever their circumstance happened to be, I could not take money from them. It didn't feel right. There was another exchange going on, as you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in that act of love, it is an act of love.
Yes.
It's love of what you do, and what you do is loving through you.
Yes.
To love.
Right.
And that any other session doesn't have the love. It's just all of a sudden it's a bigger wattage. It's a bigger, the spirit is involved differently.
Yes, exactly. Lily is saying, and you're honoring and valuing yourself in your work.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And to know that this is my life.
Yes.
This is my life.
Yes.
And I'm still working it.
Exactly. And there are many names for, what it is that we do, from seer to sensitive to medium to psychic to thunder dreamer to all sorts of names, but it's about being connected to spirit, and some of us walk and work with. But we all, as Tara was saying in the comments, we all walk with spirit every day.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we have glimpses of it when we lose someone, when someone has passed away, or when we have our own brush with illness or near death. There are lots of reasons why we have brushes with spirit. For me, those are precious times.
Right. And I was also in a place of when spirit comes through, like within our work that was last night, it touches everybody at the same moment.
Yes.
It seeps in.
Mm-hmm. I
mean, looking at the screen last night in our Zoom, it was wonderful to see each and every little cubby hole it gives me the goosebumps now to know that there was a smile, or there was warmth, or there was an emotion, where there was a reaction, there was a nod to the head, mm-hmm. that we are no longer defeated.
Yes.
And that to me is the gift of spirit that
yes.
says it all.
Yeah. Last night was extraordinary.
Yeah.
Cindy is saying, I remember what feels like 100 years ago. I inappropriately canceled an appointment with Sandy. I got a talking to. I needed it. I responded appropriately and would never do that again. Thanks, Sandy, for that honesty. Hugs and kisses. Cindy.
You're welcome, baby girl.
Tara is recounting a time she and I were at a luncheon, and I shared with the people at the luncheon that I could see spirit. And Tara said, well, she was kind of sort of surprised, but at the same time, she thought that was really cool. So we are also surrounded by the right people.
Yeah.
In our revelation. And Cindy is saying, and helping me to learn accountability.
Exactly. And there's that beauty of, there's, a wink and an eye and a, shaking of the finger, but also a wink and an eye, because it was like, where do you become accountable for who you are?
Yes.
Where does someone hold you to the line of, hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Are you aware of even what you're doing?
Right.
So, well, we're at the top of the...
We are. And our next gig, you and I are having a series on spirit guides in spirit. I don't know what I would do without my guides. They're pretty amazing. Monday night. Is it Monday night? Yeah, Monday night we get together for the first class. Yeah.
Spirit guides.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's the divine voice that said, you will do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look forward to what is being brought out of our tribe and what is walking toward us.
Yes. This is an extraordinary time. We are passing out of completely Pisces and fully ensconced here shortly in Aquarius. The vibrations around grandmother are changing in the oceans, in the skies, all of it. It's all changing. And our guidance,
everything is molten again.
It is. Everything is molten again. And so taking spirit guides to the next level, beginning on Monday. Anyway, thank you all for joining us this evening, wherever you happen to be around Grandmother Earth. Thank you to all of the ladies in the chat room tonight. And thank you, Sandy Herrick.
Well, thank you, Dana King Francisco.
You're welcome. Everyone, go ahead.
Thank you. And anybody else that tunes in later and listens, that take this with you and flourish.
Flourish. I love that word.
Okay. I'm going to get cozy and go to night-night.
Good night, everyone. Blessings be. Night, Sandy.
Good night, everybody.